Welcome to The Explainer. If you went to school in India, you probably know the feeling, that pressure of a super content-heavy system. Well, hold on because that is all about to change. Today, we're diving deep into the massive overhaul that's coming to Indian schools. It's a huge shift towards a system that's more flexible, more skill-based, and really designed for the world we live in today.
So, you might be wondering, how exactly is your school about to change? Well, this is all being driven by the Central Board of Secondary Education, the CBSE, and it's all part of aligning with the new national education policy. And I want to be clear, this isn't just some small adjustment. Nope. This is a complete reimagining of how students learn, what they learn, and how they're tested on it. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through 5 key areas. First, a brand new language formula. Then, we'll look at how they're rethinking math and science. After that, we'll dive into the new skills for the future. Then, the new exam style, which is a big one. And finally, we'll zoom out and look at the big picture and the impact of all this. First up, one of the biggest, most talked about changes has to do with languages. The old way of doing things is being replaced by a mandatory 3-language structure. It's called the R1, R2, R3 formula. So R1, that's going to be your primary language, the one you're best at, which for most people is their mother tongue. Then you've got R2, a second language. And then, starting in class 6, you'll have to take R3, a third language, and it has to be different from your first 2. And here is the absolute game changer. There's one golden rule that underpins this whole thing. No matter which 3 languages you pick, at least 2 of them must be native to India. You could even pick 3 Indian languages if you want, but 2 is the minimum. And this slide just perfectly lays out the philosophical shift. The old system, let's be honest, it was very English-centric. Regional languages often felt like an afterthought. Well, the new system completely flips that script. It prioritizes Indian languages and makes English just one of many options, right alongside French or German. The goal is to move from being English-dominated to truly multilingual. Okay, let's move on and talk about 2 subjects that often cause a whole lot of stress for students: math and science. This is another area getting a major overhaul. You know, for years, it's been this one-size-fits-all approach, right? Some students were totally overwhelmed, while others were bored and not challenged enough. The new solution is a 2-tier system. You'll have a standard level for math and science that's mandatory for everybody, covering all the core basics. But, and this is the cool part, for students who really love these subjects, there's now an optional advanced level to go way deeper and really nurture that talent. And here's the best part. This advanced track is designed to be totally pressure-free. It's an extra, optional exam. The marks you get will show up separately on your report card, but, and listen to this, there is absolutely no penalty if you don't pass it. It's all about letting you explore your interest without any academic risk. So what's the big idea here? Well, a few things. First, it's about reducing the academic pressure on students who aren't necessarily aiming to be scientists or engineers. Second, it helps students figure out what they're good at and align with their future streams like science or arts much earlier. And finally, it's a way to spot the high achievers and give them a clear path to really excel. Now, this whole overhaul isn't just about shuffling around the old subjects. The curriculum is getting a fundamental upgrade to get students ready for the modern world and for the jobs that are coming next. So a huge new focus is going to be on skills that are literally shaping our world as we speak. We're talking about subjects like artificial intelligence, taking it from being this niche, specialized topic to a core part of learning. And then, of course, there's coding. For a long time, this was a skill for just a select few. Not anymore. It's going to be integrated right into the curriculum, making it a fundamental literacy for the 21st century, kind of like reading or writing. And right alongside that, there's going to be a really strong emphasis on data literacy and other practical vocational skills. You see the pattern here? The idea is to move way beyond the textbook and give students the actual tools they're going to need in the modern workforce. But look, this isn't just about adding a few cool classes. The real goal here is much bigger. It's about aligning India's entire education system with what we call Industry 4.0. That's the 4th industrial revolution, the one driven by automation and data. It's about getting the next generation ready for a digital economy, building a national startup culture, and making sure India can compete on the global stage. Okay, so we've talked about what you learn, but now let's talk about how you're tested, because this is changing in a really dramatic way. The era of just memorizing facts and spitting them back out,
Well, it's on its way out.
This slide just nails the difference, right? In the past, a question might be, hey, what is Newton's law? It's a memory test. Now, exams are going to have case-based questions and application-based multiple choice. You're going to get a question that says, okay, here's a real-life problem. Apply Newton's law to solve it. See the difference? It's about testing if you actually understand it, not just if you memorized it.
All right, so we've looked at all these individual changes: languages, math and science, new skills, new exams. So let's zoom out. What's the big picture here? What does this all mean for students, for schools, and for the country?
Well, for students, the promise is pretty great. More flexibility, less stress, and a better shot at figuring out what career is right for you. For the nation, the hope is to build a stronger workforce and just get better learning outcomes all around. But, and this is a big but, for schools, this is a huge challenge. We're talking about the massive burden of retraining teachers and upgrading infrastructure to actually make all this happen. And we have to be real here. There are some serious hurdles to overcome. For one, there's a concern out there that putting less emphasis on English could hurt India's global competitiveness. Then there's the huge practical problem of finding enough qualified teachers for all these different languages, especially in rural areas. And finally, in a society like India's, you have to worry about the social pressure that comes from labeling kids as standard or advanced so early on.
So at the end of the day, what we have here is a really bold and ambitious new blueprint for Indian education. On paper, it tackles a lot of issues people have been talking about for years. But the big question, the one that really matters, is whether this blueprint can actually build India's future. And the answer to that will depend entirely on how these very real challenges are handled on the ground.